Hey guys, what's up? Dingo Crikey here with another commentary video, this time discussing how a Transformers Beast Wars movie or movies should be handled. So there's been a lot of hype about Transformers 5 and future Transformers spin-off films. Basically, they seem to want to expand the Transformers cinematic universe beyond just two trilogies, which is pretty cool, though I think many of us would like to see an expanded universe done separately from the main cinematic universe, aka Bayformers, but there's no news on whether that is being done or not. Still, Beast Wars movie was mentioned in this whole mix, and it is an interesting twist. I never really thought Beast Wars was something they would look to for the future Transformer movies, or even a future Transformers cartoon, unless it was very far down the road, but now it is being talked about, and even though it is just a possibility right now, it could be ditched, it is still fun to think about how a Beast Wars movie would be handled. Especially if you're like me and you're a huge Beast Wars lover. And I didn't even grow up with this cartoon. I actually went back and watched it because it was a little before my time, and I thought the series was incredible. So there's not really nostalgia getting in the way there. There's just great plot lines, character development, world building, Transformers language integration, great writing, just so much that went into this series. It's a little bit hard to get into, but once you're into it, it's well worth the ride. That said, one of my biggest fears, if they are going to actually make a Beast Wars movie, is that a guy like Michael Bay would be at the helm. Because Transformers has never had an effort that brings it back to Beast Wars in full force, or kind of tries to recreate Beast Wars like has been done countless times with G1, I feel like Beast Wars has kind of owned a sacred spot in the franchise. So I know for a guy like me, even when you have Transformers Animated coming back to Transformers Beast Wars with characters like Rat Trap, it almost feels like a bit of a mockery, and it's really touchy area. Even with Waspinator, they didn't really do him that bad in Animated, but it just felt kind of weird because I'm not used to Beast Wars being treated that way. Even in the comics, they handle characters like Rat Trap and Waspinator, from what I've seen, pretty well. It still feels a little bit odd. Michael Bay taking a grab at Beast Wars could definitely result in some pretty bad things. But on the bright side, I don't really see it as being something he's interested in. I mean, other than the Neanderthal, there's no humans in the show, so he can't do that, and it's just robots, so he can't have all of those things Michael Bay likes to do with human characters. I mean, there's also not things like product placement, that kind of stuff. If it was all CGI, I think it would be hard to make it all crazy action-packed, but still, if he was involved and couldn't do those typical things we note Bay for, he could still just have his bad directing style where you just don't get attached to characters and feel the motion of the movie. But with Bay working on probably like Transformers 5 and 6 as his big focus, I'm really hoping the spin-off films might get better directors. Even that aside, I'm not sure I'd want to see a Beast Wars movie. I'm definitely not totally against it, and initially it's exciting. But here's the thing with Beast Wars. It was already really good in its original form. It did have mistakes, especially in the special effects department and some of the humor getting overbearing at points, but overall the series was pretty solid, as opposed to a series like Armada. I'm a huge fan of Armada, but I can recognize that the series has a lot of flaws. It had some great plot lines, great character potential, much of which was lived up to, but it also was stunted because low production quality, mediocre voice actors in some cases, plot holes, bad action sequences, so it had a really good premise, but I would be open to see like some 25 episode remake of Armada. I think it could be pretty cool. Beast Wars I don't really feel needs that. Still, a movie's a different form of medium, so seeing Beast Wars with advanced CG in a feature-length film could be really cool. As far as what it would be like, I would definitely want them to take cues from the original Beast Wars, especially in regards to the overall plot. Whether this potential Beast Wars movie would be in the Bayformers universe or some other Transformers cinematic universe, I would want it to be something that happens far beforehand, rather than concurrent with the other Transformers film, like it was to G1 in the original series. And I think they would have to do that because of the size and location differences. There's really no way the Maximals could work too well together with the Autobots or Predacons, Decepticons. Also, Beast Wars just had some really good plot lines. Now, some of the individual episodes could get silly at points, but overall the big plots were really cool. Especially if they were going to tie it into Bayformers, I think a Unicron plotline would be really neat. Because of course we had Unicron in the original Beast Wars. It would be cool if they kind of used this, introduced Unicron's character through this film, and then kind of brought him into Transformers 6, or 5, and it would be a way of tying the two together, plus incentive for people might not be as interested to go see Beast Wars, because of course you're going to get a lot more backstory on that plot line in that film. Now that would be a really cool plot to see in a Beast Wars movie, but there's also the whole time travel story and the golden disc, and then, Megatron going to the Ark and trying to make sure Optimus Prime never awoke on planet Earth. That would be really cool to see woven into these Transformers movies somehow, or just used as a plot itself. So I think if they were going to do a Beast Wars movie, it would be cool to at least see two, because all those time travel stories definitely deserve their own film. They were really exciting in the original Beast Wars, far beyond what I would ever expect from Transformers at that point, at least in a cartoon, and just really exciting. So if we had these tying into preferably a non-Bayformers cinematic universe, I think it would be really cool if they kind of messed with that whole time travel concept and basically the Maximals preventing the Predacons from destroying the future. Overall, that would be a cool plot, though they could obviously have subplots in the films, and of course underlying conflicts between the characters, which was a huge part of Beast Wars. I mean, if they were going to do Beast Wars justice in a movie, they would need to have great character interactions like the original cartoon did, which basically means they can't have Michael Bay and his team of writers on board for the film, because even when Michael Bay does give Transformers characters more time in the movie, they're not nearly as human and well-rounded characters as we've seen in Beast Wars. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on that, you can click on the link here to my video, 5 reasons why Transformers fans hate the live-action films. But with Beast Wars, the characters are a must. If they were doing a direct adaptation of the original Beast Wars cartoon, I would prefer to have all of the Maximals the same, probably no new characters. I don't think you really need them. The Predacons, maybe they could swap out a few of the more minor ones like Scorponok, but overall I think you do gotta have that core Beast Wars cast. And I would rather them focus on quality of characters than quantity, which basically means if they have to cut out a few characters to give some, like Dinobot and Rat Trap, more time, I would rather them do that. Plus, Beast Wars didn't really have a very big cast to begin with. As the show ran, it got larger, but if they did this over a course of 2 movies, they would have that time. As far as the characters that I'd want to see, you need the core Maximal cast: Optimus Primal, Rhinox, Cheetor, Rat Trap, and Dinobot. Those ones need to be in there. Tigatron would definitely help add diversity to the cast, but I would prefer if they kind of took the cue from Beast Wars of having him not necessarily with the Maximals. They come across him in the film, but he doesn't, join the team, because he's kind of a pacifist, which is really cool. We don't see that in Transformers a whole lot. As far as the Predacons go, you need Megatron, Black Arachna, Tarantulas. I think you would want Terrorsaur to add another dinosaur transformer other than just Megatron, but Scorponok, maybe you could switch him out for Inferno, even though Inferno came a little bit later on in the show, and obviously as the movie went on, or if they made 2, they could build the cast from there. Certain characters get upgrades, Transmetals, Fusers, that kind of thing. Because of course characters like Silverbolt and Quickstrike were really enjoyable to have around. Speaking of characters, I think it would be really important to have a lot of those original voice actors, or if they're available, or at least for certain characters find voice actors who are pretty comparable. A guy like Scott McNeil, he did so many of the voices: Rat Trap, Dinobot, Waspinator, Silverbolt later on. I don't know how that works with cartoon voice actors going over to movies. He's done voices in direct-to-DVD movies like Tahu and Bionicle Mask of Light, but that definitely isn't the same kind of thing. I think it would be really cool to see him do voices in these. if it's going to be on the big screen, I don't know if they would do that just because he is a cartoon voice actor. But some guys like him, Venus Trenzo, who voiced Black Arachna, I can't remember his name, but the guy who voiced Rhinox, David Kaye, of course, for Megatron, all of those would be really, really cool to hear. If they weren't to get Gary Chalk for Optimus Primal, I still wouldn't want them using Peter Cullen simply because Optimus Primal is supposed to be a different character, and though I love Peter Cullen's voice, he really doesn't fit the character of Optimus Primal. He fits Optimus because they are pretty different characters. As far as the whole style of the movie, I mean, obviously it is going to have a good amount of action, but I don't want it to be so much of an action film like the Michael Bay movies are. I want it to have more of a sci-fi influence, problem solving. We've seen a lot of that in the original Beast Wars, and then of course character focus. Even when we do have action, I don't want it to be the style of the Bayformers action, and that doesn't necessarily deal with disliking the fight scenes in Bay's movies, because some of them are definitely really, really cool, but Beast Wars is supposed to be a different kind of thing. It's more like two small groups who are kind of acquainted with each other, basically having these skirmishes, fighting over technology, and a lot of the combat's really done it with guns. Even when we do see fist fighting, it should be more like we see with humans, rather than them just tackling each other and ripping their sockets out and all that kind of stuff. So I definitely want to have a different tone even in the action, but just have more of a Beast Wars, I don't know, you put it, science fiction, drama, combined with action take on it. And of course, comedy would be a big portion of that, and no doubt about it, I wouldn't want to see the kind of comedy we see in Bayformers, or even some of the other Transformers cartoons. For me, Beast Wars definitely had its bad moments when it came to comedy, where it was just the really distorted stuff of a guy like Waspinator being ripped apart, or like effects with the CGI that were supposed to be humorous. But I think what made it really stand out in its good funny moments was that it was a lot of character-based stuff, and not the silly stuff we see in the movies with the Autobots just like bonging the other one on the head, or Skids and Mudflap getting into fights, though you definitely did have conflict with the characters in Beast Wars. It's way different than the crazy stuff you just see in the movies where, like I said in my 5 Reasons video, you can't even relate to it anymore. So I think all of those things are really important to a Beast Wars movie. I'm kind of starting to ramble here, so I'm just going to wrap things up. I would like to see a Beast Wars movie done if it could be done right. Now, if they were going to take a different avenue and just deal with Beast Transformers, but not necessarily have Beast Wars characters and plot, I wouldn't be as excited, but I'd definitely be open to it. But I think if they were going to make a movie titled Beast Wars, it would definitely be taking a lot of influence from the original cartoon. And hopefully it would do it right. That's my thoughts on it. You guys can leave yours in the comment section below. What do you think about the prospects of us getting a feature-length Beast Wars film? And do you like the idea? Maybe you dislike it because you're just not a big Beast Wars fan, or maybe you really like Beast Wars and you're worried about a movie ruining it. Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, along with any topic suggestions you might have, or if you have news on this topic or other topics relating to the Transformers films. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more Transformers news and commentary videos. Have a good one, guys. See you soon.